We can begin when you're ready. You're good.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay. Can we call this Arts and Culture Commissioner meeting Tuesday, June 13th, 2023 at 6:03 p.m. Can I get someone to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I can lead us. I will begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I get a roll call?
Absolutely. 1 minute. Okay. Commissioner Hillstock,
Present.
Commissioner Stopper. Commissioner Everett. Here. Commissioner Ross. Present. Commissioner Sanchez. Vice Chair Rojas,
Present.
Chair Kiato.
Can I get verification of agenda posting?
Absolutely. The agenda for the Tuesday, June 13th, 2023 meeting of the Art and Culture Commission was posted at both the Pauline Valdeva Memorial Community Center and the City Hall on Friday, June 9th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. per Government Code 54954.2.
Thank you. Did everyone get a chance to look at the minutes? Yes. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second? Awesome. Thank you. Any public comment? No.
No, there is no public comments
All
at
right.
this time.
Thank you. Can we discuss old business? Old business 1, receive an update on arts development fee.
I can update our commission on the art development fee. The item will be on the June 20th agenda. So it's a first reading. And if council approve, then we'll move it to the second reading in August 7th. And if approved at that point, then we have 30 days to publicize the item, and then it'll go into effect after the 30 days that council approves the fee.
Thank you. Does anybody have any comment? Any commissioners have any comment on that? Okay. Can we discuss old business 2, receive an update on Arts and Culture Commission bylaws?
I'll address this item also. what is, it's going to happen, our city clerk's office will go through and gather all of our different commissions, planning commission, airport commission. Wrong. Airport Commission, our Parks and Recreation Commission, and also included is the Art and Culture Commission. Just going to go through, or the department is going to go through the bylaws of each commission, and then from there we'll have very similar process and policy and bylaws. And then from there, we'll bring it back to the commission to adopt. So each commission, it'll be all consistent throughout each commission. And that was from the recommendation of our city clerk's office.
And will any of the notes from last meeting and prior be considered in that?
What they're looking for is consistency in the bylaws. So with our art commission, there were several different changes. And I'm not sure, I can't answer that question at this time.
Any other commissioner comments on old business 2? Okay, thank you. Let's discuss old business 3, receive recommendations from the city clerk's office regarding timed agenda items.
I'll go ahead and present on this one. So our city clerk's office wasn't in favor of the timed agenda. We did have a chance to talk to Chair Chiato in regards to her request, and she supported our city clerk's office. And the reason being is if there is discussion and the commission would like to continue to talk about the item, that if we have a timed agenda, we would have to stop it at a certain, like 10 minutes instead of allowing you guys to discuss in a little more detail.
Any comments, thoughts, or opinions from other commissioners? Okay, thank you. Next is old business 4, discuss placemaking downtown Hollister, collaborate with the Hollister Downtown Association to put up a Day of the Dead event downtown.
Okay, so I want to introduce Omar Rosa. He is the CEO, president of the Hollister Downtown Association. I invited him to be at this meeting tonight. Last meeting, we discussed, Commissioner Jans is not here, but we discussed an event that is held downtown Gilroy, and we were hoping to collaborate with the Hollister Downtown Association and see if it's something that we can do the event with the HDA, including the downtown businesses. So unfortunately, Commissioner Sanchez is one of the commissioners that have seen the event downtown Gilroy.
Yep.
And wanted to, I know a little, I mean, you were definitely better, Commissioner Ross, about what the event was and how Gilroy is doing it. But we wanted to see if it was something that the Hollister Downtown Association would even be interested in collaborating with us on.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm just writing some notes down so I can go back and take a look at that.
Absolutely. And I don't know, Commissioner Ross, would you like to give a little background of
Yeah.
what we discussed last time?
Sure. So Commissioner Sanchez actually put on, it was in San Jose, and put on this event. I don't know if it was for multiple years, but artists were able to create ofrendas in front of different businesses, and then the businesses also were able to kind of be a part of it, and it created this moment of inclusion and kind of celebration of each other's, different cultures, because some of the businesses may not have celebrated Dia de los Muertos, but had really similar celebrations in other ways. So it's just a really great way to bring our community together. So the discussion was about possibly having something like that for Dia de los Muertos here downtown. And it could be artists that are partnering with different businesses, or, any other ideas that comes up here. I think we started to really expand on the idea. But because Commissioner Sanchez isn't here, I think maybe kind of reeling it into something smaller might be a little bit better. I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on that.
I think so. Looking at our notes from our last meeting, we wanted to see where our first steps would be to try to collaborate with the Downtown Association, and if we could attend meetings or how exactly that would go about. Let's see, and also we did write some ideas down here, something similar to Rancho. So instead of having it at the park, right, we decided maybe at the school. Is that what we talked about last time, Commissioner Ross?
Oh, I was saying, because I remember when I went to the one at Rancho, they had ofrendas and candles in the gym, and just that setting of it being dark, like having events like or activities outside, and then you have a more quiet place inside. I was thinking maybe we could do something like that at Vets Hall, where you go in, where there's activities along the street outside, but then you go in and you have that little quiet, like more respectful area inside type thing.
I think we also wanted to put up like altars without having the need to close the street, but still be inviting for the downtown businesses, or at least for them to get involved somehow. I think we also talked about doing it at the Memorial Building, but I think we also discussed that they also do something that same day or same time. I think it was.
I think it was Treat Street.
Oh. Or something, right? The Memorial Building itself has an event or something. So I don't know what our first steps would be. Omar, could you enlighten us a little bit about how we
kind of putting me on a hard spot here. I'm not quite sure, but yeah. So when I was asked initially to see if we can attend the meeting today, see how we can collaborate, the answer was absolutely 100% yes. We would love to, but getting more information from your group and seeing what your thoughts were, and then trying to figure out like what can we do for this year,
Right.
what can we do going forward. If you want to start small this year and then kind of grow the event as it goes on. It's something that we've discussed in the past, and we were talking about doing maybe a parade, the other one's a parade or something like that. So this kind of fits within what our needs and wants of wanting to do something to honor this event as well. So it may not be a parade, but it may be something along those lines so we can bring something together. Now, is this going to be something for the actual Dia de los Muertos Day, or because sometimes we had things that are, for this, but then it happens a couple of days before or whatever. So just kind of get a sense of what Trick Street's going to look like, and then also what this is going to look like, so we can kind of plan and figure out how we can better assist the group within that. But again, I don't know to what involvement you want us to have. If it's just more of support for permits, help with the planning, take the lead. I whatever the group is wanting. I mean, we're just here to help and support. So you let me know what you expect from us and how we can try to help make this something that can a reality.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Vice Chair Ross, if I can interrupt. What we were looking at, because we do on the October 31st, we have our Treat Street event,
Mhm.
and staff we go in all out
Yeah.
for that event. So what we were maybe seeing is if HTA could be the lead,
Okay.
and we would create an ad hoc for our through our Art and Culture Committee. And if it's permits that need to be done, we could do that, but HTA would kind of take the lead on that. And I would work with our ACC ad hoc committee and yourself. I hear the passion through our Art and Culture Commission that they would like to see it to part of the culture
Mhm.
in our community. However, we put on a big, huge Treat Street event where
Yeah.
I couldn't have, it would be really difficult and we'd face a lot of challenges if staff was allocated to do both events.
No, absolutely. And I think that was one of my questions going into it because I know how big, I mean, we're part of that just as a volunteer thing. It's already a huge endeavor when we do the Tree Street. So I totally understand that. And so again, not quite sure what I was stepping into, but just kind of seeing how we can assist. So if that's the situation that you want, I'd like to look at some notes and see what you guys have already talked about and so forth. But again, I don't know if that's in this meeting that we would have this conversation, or if it's more of a side meeting and we can start that conversation about, again, what the plans or thoughts were, and then we can look into seeing how we can make that happen. Because I know some of the businesses are already doing ofrendas and things of that nature. So how maybe we can make it so that everybody else is also involved. And again, because of the timing of where we are, maybe it's something that we start a little smaller scale, but we definitely do something. And then now we have something that we can build on going forward as we go along, if that's something too that you guys would be comfortable with. I don't want to set the expectations we'll have something all the way up here. I want to be able to kind of.
I think initially we kind of wanted it to be like some big public thing that we would get everybody involved, but because it's so close to, Trade Street and, other things that are happening, is it possible that maybe I don't know if any other commissioners like this idea, but just have the businesses themselves put up ofrendas? That way it kind of, we are celebrating and recognizing it. And it's at a much smaller scale. I think
Yeah, so when Commissioner Sanchez initially brought up the subject, we talked about keeping it that small and working with the businesses, artists paired with businesses downtown, and they would be displayed either in the business or outside the business. And there would be engagement of some sort, but it was going to be on a smaller scale is what she originally proposed, I believe.
Okay.
So, and I think that would be good because it doesn't overshadow all the other events that are going on.
Right. Again, whatever the group wants to do, and again, I'm not quite sure if this is the place to have that conversation, if we're having it now, or, because I kind of need to see what you guys had in terms of your notes and what you were thinking of, but in whatever capacity that we can try to start talking to the businesses and letting them know what we hope we can do, and then kind of build from that point on, so we can definitely help in that process. The one thing we have is we have our Lights On Parade, which happens at the end of November. So that's another, our large event of the year, but that not to say that we can't, again, take the lead or help out with any of this stuff here. So we have the window and the time. It's just kind of figuring out what exactly we want to have as our expectations for it.
I think it's good if we do discuss it now because our next meeting won't be until August. And so, sort of talking about all the different options, and if something comes to mind that you think of that is easily possible, then that would be great. The big thing was that partnering artists with the businesses so that we are incorporating artists. So that might entail some call for artists. We can kind of talk about that too, how we want to do that. That's something that's voted on by the ACC, or if it's the ad hoc that works closely with the HDA so that those selections can be made sooner rather than later. I do know that there's a lot of those little parklets that are, at the local businesses. So maybe something could be it could be a single artist or a couple of artists that work with the business to decorate those. I did want to know, so Street Treats is what date?
That falls on Halloween Day, October 31st.
Okay. And then the Red Ribbon Run is which date?
It's a Saturday. Let me check.
Because November 1st and 2nd are Wednesday and Thursday. So I don't know if the Red Ribbon Run is that 4th afterwards.
The Red Ribbon Run will fall on October 21st.
Okay.
It's a Saturday.
So, so the 31st is a Tuesday. And then would we want it to be on the 1st and 2nd? To celebrate on Dia de los Muertos?
I mean, that would be ideal, but I also I don't want to, if people are already stretched thin,
Well, what is
So-
your idea?
Well, I mean, already just in my head, I'm thinking, again, talking to the businesses downtown and seeing what we can work with in terms of having an ofrenda. I'm already, I don't know, for some reason, I'm thinking of sugar skulls, like having maybe something in the plaza at the Vets building, if that's available, and maybe having a couple of booths there, then people can come, like kids can come out and decorate their own sugar skull and
Mhm.
kind of, I look to see how much those kits cost and
Mhm.
what we can do within that. I like the idea of what you mentioned about having the artists kind of see if they can decorate some of the parklets and with the Dia de los Muertos thing, and then maybe we can do an award for the best looking artist and the partner business as well, and do something to recognize that, like as this is great, and
Yeah.
we'll find some judges between the group here that maybe can look into that. But those are just some thoughts I have already of what we can do to kind of build off of that. And
I think the idea is just to get something
going
started.
right.
That way it builds interest in the community, and then if there is enough interest, then maybe we can expand on it the following year, but just to get something out. And I kind of walked into this situation too, even though I think it's a fabulous idea. I would have really liked to pick Commissioner Sanchez's brain about what she would like to see. But
And I'm sorry if I'm going to ask a really random question here, but is Commissioner Sanchez just not able to attend today's meeting, or is she not going to be a part of the commission?
She mentioned, she sent back that she would be here, so I'm not sure. I said it.
Oh, I mean, I would love to be able to have a conversation offline if I can with the commissioner as well, or if that's a possibility. It's okay to do it outside of the setting here, but just to get more of a clear understanding of what was happening.
Yes, Vice Chair Rojas, you do have the ability to create the ad hoc committee and then assign commissioners to be a part of the group. It just can't be more than 4. So you would have the ability to assign 3 or less commissioners to be a part of that ad hoc. And then I would kind of suggest, Omar, if it's okay, I would share your email and information with our commission. And then you guys would be able to set up a meeting. And if I can be a part of it, just to help out with the
Yeah.
commission. But the other recreation staff, they're spread thin a little bit. So I would like to see it happen, and I'd be a part of that process too.
I also wanted to let you know that the high school, I teach art at the high school, and we actually do a big Dia de los Muertos celebration, and we have music, so performers, dancers, and then bands. So we could probably work with you also about bringing in, if you're able to get into the plaza, maybe we could have performers there also if they're interested.
Yeah.
And I think, like we were saying, like building the parade is a wonderful idea for this. So we appreciate you deciding to take the lead or helping with that.
No problem. Like I said, let's set up that ad hoc committee. Let me know what day works for you guys so we can go and have a conversation. Start brainstorming some other ideas of what we can do. And again, just kind of keeping in mind the time frame that we have. But I like the idea of the high school band performers and already having that. If I can get the plaza booked and looked at, then we can do something center around that area and then have more things just happening. I don't know if it's going to be a full closure or a closure of the streets, but maybe again, small steps, and then maybe next year becomes a bigger and bigger thing. So.
And just to clarify, it's not the high school band, it's just some community
yeah,
bands,
sorry.
yeah. And then what do we think the time of day would be for this?
It's unfortunately it's in the middle of the week.
Mhm.
So it'd probably have to be like an afternoon, evening
Mhm.
type of event. Because I know the kids are usually, at least I think they go back to school on the 1st, or they may have the day. Some schools close the day after Halloween because they don't want to deal with the children. I know mine, they don't open on the day after Halloween, but if it's on the 1st, I mean, that might be a possibility, but again, we'll have to kind of see, but I think it'd be more of like an afternoonish type event, like maybe a 4 to 7
Mhm.
is
Okay.
maybe the timeframe.
Is the farmer's market still happening during that time? That would be November 1st?
No, our farmer's market ends on October 11th this year,
Okay.
so we'll be done with that part of it, but yeah, we can look and see if we can want to do food or food vendors or something like that, and they can come out. Because M Churros is hoping to have their building up and ready by the fall. I think that might be a group that might be one of the vendors that we can have at, if we talk to them now and see if they can be there for that. Kind of goes with along with the ofrendas and other things, but yeah, that's a thought.
Commissioner Stopper, what do you think about Art Club possibly being a part of providing activities also? Because that would be great to get the community involved.
I would definitely talk to Jade about it.
Okay.
She's gonna be the president next year.
Okay.
I know she wants to get more involved in more events, and I think this would be a really good one. Maybe have them run some type of booth out there, or even just ask if they want to be volunteers of some sort.
Mhm.
I was thinking too, if we can reach out to the schools, obviously we can't do that now because summer started, but if they are doing an art project as well for elementary and everything else, we can see if we can get some of that artwork. And we can try to display it at either our window at the HDA office and other places, so we kind of start displaying some of that art stuff during that window of time too. So we can involve the elementary schools and stuff like that and see if they have anything that they would be willing to display and showcase, and we can try to find a home for that during those events.
Speaking of clubs, this last year I was a part of Metro Club at the high school, so we should probably reach out to Miss Torres just to see if like, because they were like, I saw even just being a part this year, they were really involved with a lot of different events throughout the year, even when it was the Cesar Chavez naming of that one street, a couple weeks ago. And yeah, I'm sure they'd love to be involved. They're like a really involved group over there.
Yeah, I think it would be really good because like I was saying, our school does a big event, so maybe it could even kind of be hosted downtown during that day. I don't know. We'd have to start to talk a little bit more about that.
Right.
But that'd be a great opportunity. Do you think that Vets Hall would be available during like the hall itself, kind of like what Commissioner Hillstock was mentioning?
I can check and see if Commander Spandry, if the building's already booked or if it's availability, and I can try to get that information over to the group and let you guys know where we are, if that's even a possibility. So we can definitely check and see if that's an
Okay.
option.
Do we know if there's any like big events utilizing Vets Hall in the weeks before, or?
I know that we have, oh God, they usually have, what is it? San Diego Stage Company, I believe, does something that occurs, because I know when we have some of our events, they're usually leaving or we're coming in, because we usually borrow that area for our holiday boutique in November. But I think before that, in that window, there are some stuff that are occurring, but because it is midweek, maybe not, but I will have to double check with them.
Because that's a good question, because if it's open, if it's free for a certain amount of time before, it'd be nice to have artists come in and start building ofrendas in there.
And I think we also discussed if we couldn't do it downtown, maybe at the park. Does anybody else remember that from last month? Now, how, if we did decide, or if maybe the timing wasn't right and it didn't work out downtown, is that kind of like where your guys' borders and parameters are? Or
We don't like to, I mean, we try to stay in our area, but again, if it's to help another group, for instance, such as this, to put something on,
Right.
there's not a restriction on my end to be able to go out and do something and try to help it. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily brand it as an HDA
Mhm.
type of thing, but again, whatever services and help we can provide with, we're open to that. So, if we have to find and partner with another, like a park group or something to
Mhm.
make that happen, if you guys are comfortable with that, we can definitely do that, but we can, like I said, we're here to help. So whatever that looks like and wherever you want to have it, we'll still count on us for support.
Well, I just want to thank you and I want to say I'm really excited because I think this would be a great segue into celebrating all of the different cultures and letting everybody know that everybody's welcome here.
Yeah.
That's a big part
And-
of our commission.
I know there's been an appetite for it. It's something that somebody had brought up in the past to us, but again, just with all the different things that have been going on, it's kind of like somebody needs to kind of just grab us and say, no, we're doing this now, so we can actually focus on that. But yeah, no, we're excited and honored to be asked to assist with any of this, so we can, yeah, we're looking forward to that. So I took a lot of notes down on the yellow paper here, but yeah, again, give me the information and then we can start having the offline conversations so we can get something going.
Thank you, Mr. Rosa. Anybody else have any other comments or? No. Okay, thank you so
All right,
much.
thank you.
But Vice Chair Rojas, if you'd like to assign or see if there is anyone that would like to be a part of the ad hoc.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I wanted to assign anybody up until Commissioner Sanchez, but I don't also want to wait too long. So, I mean, I would be interested in joining that ad hoc. That is something that's close to me. I don't know if anybody else or if we just want to come back to that next week too, or next month, or not next month.
No, we should probably do it now.
All
'cause
right.
We're taking a month off.
Sure. Well, I volunteer myself for the ad hoc. I don't know if any other commissioners are interested.
I'm
Um,
always interested in everything.
I don't
but
know
I
if
don't
we
wanna take away
can-
from Anybody.
Can we assign Commissioner Sanchez even though she's not here? Then I think we should do that for the time being. As far as our communication, I know we did say that we could email each other, but are there HDA meetings that we can attend that kind of would, give us an idea of who is there that we could talk to, or how how do your meetings go, or?
We normally have, we just had our last meeting yesterday. Say Tuesday, yeah, sorry, yesterday. So we have our last meeting. We just have one more meeting for the board this Thursday, but we won't be meeting in July. So we're kind of in the same kind of mindset. So this would be more of a staff thing, but again, it'd be myself as the contact person, and then
Sure.
I'll bring in other people that are part of my team to see if they what other levels they can assist with. We
Okay.
have someone that handles the permits. We have someone that handles other coordination and things like that, but it may be staff here that we would do, and maybe one other board member that I know that's very passionate about the art portion of it. So
Mhm.
we can definitely bring that in, but I can leave my contact information now, so you guys have my cell phone and my
Sure.
cards as well, so that you guys have that.
Thank you. I don't want to make it something, bite off more than we can chew, for sure. I want it to be respectful and I want it to be something that we can all manage. So even if that's a smaller version of what this big picture is in our head, I think anything would be a good starting.
Yeah,
to-
and to be fair, like, it's been my approach right now as we do launch things, is that, we learn from our first and our seconds and thirds and so forth. And I think a smaller scale for us is always better, because that way we know what we can handle, and then we can then see what worked and what didn't work, and then move forward that way. So a lot of the things that we do, we kind of start off in a smaller scale. Maybe it's too conservative, but we just want to make sure
Sure,
that this is
no.
something, there's an appetite there for it, and how we can improve on that. So
Okay.
I would, but just because next meeting will probably be my last, I don't know how much I'll be able to do within that time frame.
So really quickly, Vice Chair Rojas, were you bringing a motion to create an ad hoc committee?
Yes. Can I get a motion?
So you would bring the motion and ask for a second.
Okay. So I motion to add the ad hoc for the Dia de los Muertos. Can I get a second?
I second.
Just to clarify, Rob, do they does he need to, what am I trying to say? Not assign, but does he need to let the ad hoc, can't think of the word. Does he need to assign the ad hoc members?
So if he makes a motion to create the ad hoc committee, then you can ask for volunteers at that point who can then volunteer to be in the committee. That would be the preferred way to be able to have these discussions, so as not to potentially have any Brown Act violations or serialized meetings if you're talking with independent members.
There was a motion by Vice Chair Rojas and a second by Commissioner Everett. Oh, now it's all being asked for a vote
Okay.
of the commission.
Then I asked, okay. Should I still assign Commissioner Sanchez even though she's not here? Or should we wait for volunteers first?
Real quick, Sanchez just sent me a text and she'll be here in 5 minutes.
Oh,
I can sit down.
So perhaps what you can do is take a vote on the creation of the ad hoc committee, and then once she arrives, you can ask for volunteers to put into the ad hoc
Okay.
committee.
can I get a vote to create the ad hoc for the Day of the Dead event downtown?
All those in favor? Is that what we're saying?
So you can go ahead and ask for all those in favor.
Okay, individually or?
You can do it as a group unless you'd like to perform a roll call vote.
Okay. Thank you so much. What does everybody think? Yeah, can we,
Yeah.
all in favor?
Yes.
Yes,
Aye.
yes, aye, yes. Okay,
And opposed?
any opposed?
So then let it show that all members are in favor and none opposed.
Okay, so let's show that all members are in favor and none opposed. Can we pause on that for a second and move on to new business? Okay, sorry, thank you so much for helping me. Okay. Can we discuss new business? One, discuss applying for the Tony Hawk grant.
Okay, so we had a short discussion on this on our last meeting about applying for the Tony Hawk grant and if that's something that the commissioners wanted to move forward on. And I don't know, I sent a link and I know a couple of you clicked on and saw what was required and whether we are even a good fit for it. And at that point, we just are just waiting for direction to know whether you want us to and continue or wanting to apply or.
I think there was interest in seeing if we could apply for something like that, but I don't know if any commissioners were able to fully look through. Or did any of you guys were able to look at the grant, or I mean, how do we know if we could apply for something like that, and who would an
That's-
underwriter be?
Sorry,
Oh,
that's one of the questions I had, because I don't know if I got a different link. But it looks like California can't even qualify at this point.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if that's the right information I gleaned from the website, but it looks like right now it's mostly East Coast, Michigan and New York. I'm not sure if that's correct.
Yeah, okay, can we pause this and go back to old business?
So bring back a motion to discuss the Dia de los Muertos
Okay.
ad hoc committee.
Can we bring back a motion to discuss the Day of the Dead ad hoc committee for the event downtown? I just want to catch Commissioner Sanchez up. We just had a nice conversation with the CEO Elmore Rosa, the chief executive
You- you-
officer.
You need a second.
Oh.
And then
Well, I wish I was better at this. Okay, can I get a second motion?
I second.
Okay, thank you. And now I can. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all in favor with none opposed? Is anybody opposed? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Any other commissioner opposed? No, okay. All in favor of creating the Day of the Dead event and none opposed? Yeah, okay.
I'm also like to say, I'm sorry for throwing you off.
I've been doing this for a while. You think I'd
Yeah.
hang of it. Anyway, and so I volunteered to be in the ad hoc.
Great.
Would you also like to be in this?
See,
Okay.
I would.
And so do we have to do a whole nother motion to have her?
Oh, okay. So we only have two up to this point?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. Anybody else want to be a part of the committee?
Unfortunately, this is probably gonna end up being my last meeting. Otherwise, I
Oh.
would volunteer, but
No
I can't
worries.
really put much in after today, so.
Okay. We can like recruit volunteers and stuff, right? In other words, to help us in the planning of that? Or does that have to be just he and I? Okay.
It'll be a great first experience on an ad hoc, that's for sure.
Excellent.
So,
Okay,
yes.
awesome.
Looking for a lot of direction here. So and so now that we have our members of the ad hoc and no other volunteers, what do we do now to solidify that?
Just pass another motion identifying the members of the ad hoc committee that was created.
Okay, and then do I have to do like, we don't have to do a pose or anything, right? Because we're not voting on.
So you would pass again another motion and you would ask for a second and then any opposed
Okay.
or all in favor.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion? I motion the Day of the Dead event for the ad hoc. Me, Vice Chair Rojas, and Commissioner Sanchez, all in favor. And Commissioner Everett, thank you.
Do I second the motion? Can I do that? I second the motion.
Okay, and all in favor,
Aye.
and any opposed? No, okay, so all in favor of the Day of the Dead ad hoc committee.
Aye. Do I say?
We did that right.
I
We need a class on just how
feel
to do
like it's
this.
day one again. Doesn't it feel like 2 years ago already? Yeah.
Okay, and then do we just catch her up with what Omar was talking about, or?
I would suggest it be, can do it after.
Okay.
And we can meet.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, so can we go back to the new business then? Yeah, we will contact you. The three of us will, about what next steps would be for. the
Do I
Day
have
of
a
the
card here? Is that yours? Okay, thank you.
Dead. Okay, thank
Alright.
you. Okay. Can we go back to resume new business one, discussing applying for the Tony Hawk grant? It doesn't. I don't know if we want to continue to shove this item until we can get a better understanding, but it kind of seems from Commissioner Everett that she kind of looked into it, and it doesn't seem like something that is available to us at the moment.
It's also incredibly complicated, time consuming, and by the time because I actually took quite a deep look into it myself last year. And this was just on my own before we finally brought it to the table for a more serious look at it. And by the time that were to get sorted out, it almost feels like it would be a part-time job to do this, right? That, you know, we're gonna be so far down the line that these kids are not gonna get any immediate relief from the skate park's condition now, right? Or even in the next few months for that matter. And we've already been on this commission talking about the skate park for 2 years now. And I mean, that's already a long time to wait to even just get to a point where we even have decided that maybe we'll look into a Tony Hawk grant, which is incredibly difficult and competitive to get. So I really urge us to really think about a different way to go about the skate park. And we've been talking about the what was the funds that were coming in from taxing businesses?
Yeah.
Is that the Civic Art Fund? Yeah, so something like that, but also working, I guess, in partnership maybe with city council, because my understanding too, however, though, is that the park is also the property or on a part of the county. Right? So I don't even know if it's partnering with city council and maybe it's partnering with the superintendents instead. So I almost kind of feel like we're going to maybe make more or quicker headway going that way than, I mean, and it's also a multi-prong approach, I guess. Maybe we're trying for this grant at the same time, but the point is that we have to attack it soon and we need to have results soon. Something that we can start on. Because I think we keep talking about a culture of progress. And it just, 2 years into this, it doesn't feel that way.
I know that there've been a lot of bumps in the road that have kept us from trying to
Mm-hmm.
make any headway. And I think the thing is that a lot of us just don't know where to start, and it kind of seems like you think you're going in the right direction with one thing, and then you get stopped by somebody or something, and you're just kind of left like, well, what's the next approach? How can we?
So I guess I would ask a straight question then. And maybe Tina can help us. So the skate park, right, situation, if we want to sort of start looking at a more direct way of working towards getting that project moving, right, in some direction and seeing some sort of progress on it. We understand that the skate park is technically a county, right?
Yes,
Responsibility, I guess.
it is owned by the county
Okay,
and it goes through the Veterans Commission.
okay, so how do we as a commission start to work towards partnering with the county? I'm assuming superintendents as well, right? Or is it just the Veterans Commission?
We'd start with the Veterans Commission. We just do a presentation, letting them know we would like to. Actually, first we'd start with our council
Okay,
and because they approve any grant, they have to approve any grants that we write. So if our council approves us to go move forward and write the grant or apply for the grant, I should say, then we go to the Vets Commission. And then from there, they'll let us know if they approve it or if we have to go to their Board of Supervisors. More than likely, our third step is going to their Board of Supervisors.
okay. So, Chair Chiato and I walked through the park and identified what we believed would be sort of immediate things that really don't seem super costly immediately. I mean, we're talking about like water sources, right? Also, we were told by
Hate to interrupt, but we do have to confine our discussion to the Tony Hawk grant application.
okay. So what does that mean exactly? Because we've been talking about several things in relation to the skate park.
So it needs to be either directly related or relevant to the applying for the application of the Tony Hawk's grant, because that's how it's listed in the agenda. So we would need to keep our discussion around things that are relevant to the Tony Hawk grant and applying for it.
Could we ask to have this be put on to the next agenda? Where we talk about creating a proposal that would go to the city council?
Yes.
And that means though another 2 months, right?
Would the ad hoc be able to meet in between that time to create something? I know that sort of veers off from the Tony Hawk.
Yeah, I would say that you would be safe to place it for discussion and probably list it within the agenda as a discussion regarding the skate park and potential funding mechanisms for improvements
Okay.
within the agenda.
How do we table Tony Hawk?
But you could. Right. So
Meaning like set it aside, like not talk about it anymore.
He was just saying that we could have kind of a larger umbrella of this discussion be the skate park. And then under that would be possible funding. And so then Tony Hawk could be one of the funding measures that we would talk about.
I guess I'm confused though. Isn't that what we've been doing though, is talking
So-
about the skate park as a whole
So-
and everything underneath that?
So that's. So basically what happens is the discussion has to, because of the way that it's listed within the agenda, it's listed as the discussion applying for the Tony Hawk's grant. So the discussion amongst the commissioners needs to be confined to that discussion regarding an application for the Tony Hawk's grant. Not other, like discussing other grant funding sources beyond the Tony Hawk's grant because of the specificity within.
So I have a bigger question then. Who specified it that narrow? Because I know we've been discussing different avenues and all of a sudden we're only at one. There again, it negates our culture of progress.
Yeah, I guess because it started off as us talking. how
Yeah, it
we can
was
make
out here.
improvements of the skate park, and now it just seems like the new business is just for the grant. How do we go back to talking about the skate park as a whole? Do we put that back onto the agenda as?
Yeah, because this literally puts us now 2 months again now into the future. Over something we've been discussing as an umbrella for months, years at this point.
So I would bring forth a motion to basically discuss it in the next meeting.
I think this is just a good like lesson for us. I thank you for being here and giving us a lot of clarification on things. I think it's a good lesson for us to be really definitive what we want to talk about in our agendas and looking closely at those when they're sent to us from Corey, because we do still have a little bit of time after you send them to us where we can make any adjustments, correct?
Correct. So I
Okay.
send them Tuesday and then anything that needs to be added or changed. As long as you let me know by Thursday before 4:00 and then they're posted at our posting on Friday before
Okay.
noon.
So I think in this meeting, because this is just specifically about the Tony Hawk's grant, maybe we talk, well, not just maybe, but yes, let's talk about that. And then we could take a vote on it, whether to go forward or not. But then also for the next meeting, we have that larger umbrella of the skate park, how to get that fixed. And then funding, things like that.
I guess I'm just a little, because it's only by how much we know, right? Like it's only how much our knowledge, right? And so I guess if we had known that, we would have, so you're right, it is a good learning lesson, right? Because now I know we have to be very
Broad at this point.
either
and-
broad or super
or
precise.
super narrow.
About,
Is that right?
yeah.
So my question then for the Tony Hawk's grant, who would take the lead on that? If we were to apply for it, who would take the lead and what's necessary?
Well, it sounds from what Tina was just mentioning earlier, we would get direction from you guys saying, yes, we want to apply for the grant. Then she would go to the city council and tell them that we want to apply for the grant, and then they would have to tell us yes or no.
Right, but who actually sort of does the legwork on that?
That would be us. Staff.
Us, you would all apply for that.
Yes, that would be staff unless
And that's what I'm saying would be, it's,
Uh,
yeah, that would be
Yeah,
a
and
lot.
then you were mentioning it's almost like a part-time job. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes, so that's where it would leave off is basically you would give us direction. Tina would go in front of council, tell them that you guys want to apply for that grant, and then they would tell us yes or no. And then we would bring that back, and then at that time, it'd probably be staff that would be applying for the grant.
So we just need to all agree on a motion to, I mean, it's that easy, or do we have to do a little bit more research before we make a motion to apply for this grant, or have you stand before council to see if we could even apply for the grant?
I think more research needs to be done. We were kind of looking at it over there and it has, if you're in this county, then go to this link. If you're over here. So as far as that, the Tony Hawk grant, I will review it. And if it's something that we want to move forward with, but then as the Art and Culture Commission, is it the art piece that we want to apply for the Tony Hawk grant? Or is it the upgrades to the, if we were awarded this grant, is it upgrades to the park, the skate park, I'm sorry. So that's what we have to decide. If it's upgrades to the parks, that falls under the Parks and Recreation Commission.
So the grant, the Tony Hawk grant covers like everything. In other words, they remodel the entire, like it's almost like they do almost like a full tear down and then create this like new thing. I think at this point though, again, given how long and how complicated that is, if in fact that's the route we want to go, or if we want to work as a team with the county, with council to make this happen in a different way. I mean, I do understand it'd be nice to have free money, if you will, but it's almost like a crapshoot. It's almost like a lottery to get that grant because the entire nation is competing for that.
How much is the Tony Hawk grant worth?
And that's the other thing. You don't know how much you're going to get because every park is different and every town has a different necessity. And of course, rules and regulations and government, local governance and so forth. So
Yeah.
it could just be literally years.
I think at this point, if we're not even ready to like apply to it, like if we're still in these beginning steps, I think we're better off looking to alternative routes to getting money if we can just get the ball rolling. Because we know we have I still have the notes I took a year ago on
That's
this.
right.
I have these
Yeah.
pages and I think if there's easier ways to do this, then we just need to get that ball rolling as soon as possible.
I agree. Yeah. I really would like us to table Tony Hawk.
And discuss it at another time, or just for right now, you don't believe that it's really.
I don't believe it's
Worth it.
worth pursuing at this time because it will take years, literally.
Yeah, and I think from now on, just keep skate park, if that's what it takes, just have that general broad topic so we can talk everything related to it in the future.
Mhm,
And not to add more complexity.
mhm.
But I would also say you may just want to table the discussion for now. I think a little bit of research needs to be done to determine what the scope of the discussions for the Arts Commission is when it was created by council, in order to determine whether or not that's even an appropriate discussion to have within this committee and not another committee that's been created by city council.
How long will that take?
Tina, basically, they want to know when the bylaws will be done.
The goal of the city clerk's department is to have it at the first Monday in August. I think it's August 7th. If not, then the following Monday. So they're looking to have it approved by August. The first or third meeting in August.
Okay, so I think instead of tabling it for now, we should just keep it on the agenda,
Mhm.
right? Is that kind of what we were discussing?
We're talking about the grant or the actual skate park project? Because the grant is the one thing
grant-
that's holding.
Yeah, the
things
grant
up.
itself, I think we just learned that we're a little more research is due. But then I think we also want to keep the skate park itself on the agenda. That way it's always something that we're talking about. Is that appropriate to keep something on the agenda for as long as it takes for us to kind of get what we want done with it? I hope that's making sense. Right,
Yeah,
like,
so that it stays at the forefront, and because it did sort of take a backseat for a while and then it's back again. So how do we keep it on the agenda so we continue to make progress on it?
Wouldn't it just fall under old business or?
Yeah, I think you could be right.
I guess my question is just how long can something stay on the agenda? Like how, you know,
I'm looking at the resolution that created the Arts and Culture Commission. And it appears that the scope is for matters affecting the culture of the city. Programs, encouraging programs in the fine arts and to promote cultural enrichment. And to be an effective liaison between city and local culture and artistic groups. And undertake functions reasonably necessary to accomplish those objectives. So that would be items that are properly before this commission as it was created by the city council pertaining to culture of the city and fine arts fields and promoting arts and cultural enrichment within the community.
Public art on the skate park is what we're talking about.
So
But it needs to be repaired. There are things that it needs in order for us to even do any public works on it.
and that's the artwork itself.
Yeah, like we can't put artwork on top of the condition that it's in right now is a bigger issue. But how do we work in tandem with the rest of council and anybody else who needs to help in order to get it prepared to do the public artwork on it?
I think we also kind of discussed the culture of skateboarding itself.
Exactly.
And how it's a community and how there are lots of people that want to get into this community, but it's hard to do such a thing with the conditions of the park.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. So it really is one of these things where we had to work, in collaboration with the rest of, the county apparently and the city.
I mean, I think it takes a lot more than just our commission to, do what needs to be done with that park. I don't know if it all entirely falls under our commission, but I guess what Commissioner Sanchez is asking is how do we collaborate with other either commissions or other entities to make sure that, we kind of get what needs to be done for this park.
I think it's also vitally important to recognize that the Arts and Culture Commission is not only a commission that's nice to have or pretty, right? Arts and culture makes a huge, huge impact on the way cities run and how we revitalize them. And so I think that it's important to see us as a very integral and important part in a process of revitalizing communities. Right? It's about more than just the beauty. It's about social justice for us. And so when you talk about that, you talk about a park that needs to be safe for kids, right? And in order for us to beautify it, it has to be safe first. Right? And so if we start at this end, then it doesn't make any real sense that why are we involved in this? But there's a process that eventually gets to this.
So you could make a recommendation regarding placing artwork within the skate park related to skateboarding. The issue is that agendas And the board business is specified to allow the public to be able to attend hearings potentially where they think
Yeah.
these types of decisions may be influenced and or made. And that's why it's one of those things where a Parks and Recreation Commission who is going to make recommendations to city council
Mhm.
regarding improvements and upgrades and expenditures structurally for, fixing these things within the park would be properly within their purview and would be within their agenda to allow the public to attend and comment on those items. Whereas within this commission, you would discuss ideally the cultural impact or artwork or things of cultural importance that could be placed within the skate park.
And I think I think you need to realize how they work together, right? And so we have the same thing where we, are told that people can come in and comment on what's important, right, in our meetings. I think what I'm getting at mostly is I understand how that works. How do we get it to work together? How do we get it to move forward? What are the steps to do that? Because I'm hearing a lot of what this does and what that does, and I keep hearing separation that doesn't allow for progress. Where is the connection where we make progress? That's the question.
So likely that would come from recommendations that you make to city council, right? About recommending artwork being placed that embraces the culture of skateboarding or artwork within the skateboarding area. And then they would be able to provide direction to whatever other commissions then would need to potentially review, or they themselves could make a decision to make those improvements.
So then the process is we agree on what we want to do and then we go to Tina and then, or do we show up at a council meeting? What do we do next? I guess what's the next step in that process?
So ideally what you could do is you could pass a motion recommending, artwork to be placed within, recommending to city council artwork to be placed within the park specific to that.
And that's exactly what we've been saying. That's exactly what we've been wanting to do. So what do we do? Do we pass that motion now? Is that what we do?
So you could, the problem is that that's not on the agenda. So it would have to be on the agenda for you to be able to pass that motion to be able to advise for that. So you could ask that be placed on the next agenda for the next meeting. And it would be under.
To vote on that.
Right, and it would be under an item of, discussing cultural artwork within, specifically related to the skate park or cultural artwork within the park related to skateboarding. Something that would allow you the breadth to have a discussion regarding artwork within the park that's related to this skateboarding.
So when we do that and we pass, let's say, we all say, yes, we want to do this because I know this is what we've been wanting to do, right? And it's, again, curious that this discussion couldn't take place earlier in terms of the process, right? That we've been here over 2 years having this discussion about the skate park and this very sort of, granular conversation hasn't happened, which tells me why we're still here, right? And that's, I don't know why we're still here in this situation. So my question is then, we bring this forth in 2 months now, right? We vote on it. What happens after that? What's our next step after that as a commission?
So then after doing that, that would be forwarded to city council for their review.
Okay. And then they do what? What's the process? I know you don't know the answer. What's the process after that?
So the process is that they would take it under consideration and either direct staff to look into options or potentially ask another commission to look into those options for them. So it's up to them to make a decision at that point based on the recommendation, what they'll decide to do.
Okay. So then we're pretty much looking at several months then, right? Is that about?
I do have a question. So one of the things is the culture also. So culture isn't, because we're arts and culture, it's not just visual arts. Culture is like what Commissioner Stopper was saying, is that it's creating a space for this culture that exists here, but it's not safe. And so that's where I think our lines are a little bit blurred, because we also look at, it's not a safe space. We've been saying meeting after meeting, these things need to get fixed. And so it sounds like it might be something that the Parks and Recreation Commission might be the entity that takes this on. Is it ever possible for commissions to actually work together and then
Mhm.
come to the city council meeting and say, look, we've recognized and we want to address these together? Are we able to do that together? Or do we have to take what our recommendations are to the city council, and then the city council decides whether they think it's important or not to go to the Parks and Rec Commission?
So you could make a recommendation to city council to have the Parks and Recreation Commission look at it, or you could make a, recommendation regarding, artwork and improving the area to embrace the culture of skateboarding. But again, it's your role is an advisory role to the council, and so you would be advising them regarding that, and then they would take it under consideration. And I couldn't tell you what they would decide. That would be up to them.
Yeah, we don't expect for you to know that.
So we can't ever just go to a Parks and Rec Commission meeting and talk about this as a commission ourselves? Or would it have to be from a citizen's perspective?
So you could go to a Parks and Recs meeting as a member of the public during public comment. What you do want to be careful about is, potential violations of the Brown Act, right? Which is typically what we try to avoid it. Now, I don't know, it's difficult, especially with the bylaws that are still being drawn up, but it is theoretically possible that you could potentially have a joint meeting with the other council, but that would be something that we'd have to look into further. I don't have enough in front of me to be able to tell you if that's possible.
Because my understanding is that we are underneath Parks and Rec. And so,
Are we underneath parts of it?
There's two commissions in our Parks and Recreation Department. One is the Art and Culture Commission, the other one's the Parks and Recreation
Mhm.
Commission. So you don't fall underneath them. You guys could be are side by side.
and I feel as though this is probably something that we would like to make sure is a part of our bylaws, or something that we are allowed to work in tandem, because so much of what we're going to do will involve Parks and Rec.
Yeah, there's very clear case in point is the repairs that are needed in order for us to do our part.
At what point in this, I guess in between this whole meeting, do we make those recommendations? So when we were discussing new business, we had to discuss the Tony Hawk grant. That was it. At what point in our whole meeting do we make our recommendations? Would that be through commissioner comments, or would it be under each business?
So it would be under each item. You would
Mhm.
make a motion to make a recommendation for whatever action it was that you were seeking to
Okay.
move on.
Did you do the commissioners feel comfortable enough to carry a motion to bring this back, or
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
what are particular items that we want to either go to council, or what recommendations do we want to make so that they do appear on not next month's agenda, but in August's agenda?
I have a question. It's kind of related, but kind of unrelated, but when we take a suggestion or we motion it and it goes through, and we take a suggestion to city council, how does that process work when the city council meeting happens? Which one of us goes, because I know we have an ad hoc committee for the skate park, so would it be one representative of the ad hoc committee or all of us here that gets up and tells city council our ideas?
So typically, whatever the motion is that you were advising to the city council would be communicated to the city council. And then they can, they would, ask staff to give them recommendations and a report on the item.
Well, I would like to carry a motion to bring this back. But I guess we need specific agenda items if we want to talk about those specific ones, so. Or yeah, can we make it just a general, like this skate park, and then anything we discuss is about the skate park?
I don't see an issue with that. Likely I would err on the side of caution and discuss, culture and or artwork within or related to the skateboard.
That ties our hands. How are we going to talk about those things when the repairs aren't done yet? Like, I don't understand that. How can we talk about things on something that we need someone else's help in order to even get to that point?
So then what I could recommend then is potentially placing it on that agenda, and then we can look into exactly, like I said, this is kind of on the fly, trying to figure out what your specific scope is, and we can do a little bit more research to determine whether or not that would be something that is allowable to discuss. And if it is, we can communicate that to staff, who can communicate it to each of you to be able to carry that discussion.
I do have one question. The San Benito Arts Council has done public artworks on, say, public buildings and things. I don't know if they've ever done anything in the parks at all. No?
Prior to the commission being formed, they did have some artwork at Dunn Park.
Was there any type of repair or anything that was needed to be done in order for them to actually prep the space in order to create the artworks on the walls or wherever they did them?
So the project can we discuss this?
So here we go.
Maybe we could also just could we have a topic that is talking about all
What's
of the things-
necessary in order
yeah,
to get prepared
Yes.
to do our work?
I would say that would likely be okay. Like I said, again, we'll do more research into the specific scope. It's just one of those things. It's hard for me to answer right now with just now seeing the resolution and without having any specific bylaws to be able to go off of. It's difficult to say whether or not that's within the scope. So I can't give you a clear answer right now without further information.
Have you worked with public artwork at all?
As far as,
Yeah, like have you coordinated any kind of public artwork to be created between cities and arts and culture commissions? Is that part of what the issue is that we don't have all the information because there's not a lot of experience with that? Is that the question?
no, the issue is that there's no bylaws that we can clearly reference, and all I'm going off of is a quick resolution of when this council was created, when this commission was created.
So we do have bylaws that we voted on them
Yeah, they've been
years ago. So those should be in effect until new bylaws are created.
Okay, so I don't have the bylaws.
Okay,
So,
so to kind of help with your question, one of the things when we procure art from an artist, we need them to also estimate the cost of install, but also the cost of repairs. So the physical place is always a part of the art and culture. So I think it should always be a part of the discussion.
Yeah, it's like anything else that you would go and build something on. It's almost like you have to survey it and see what you need first to do the project. And then do that and then do the work. So there's nothing different about what we're doing here. The thing is, it's already been done through the San Benito Arts Council. So I think that's my curiosity, is why we're running into this wall when it's already been done before.
So I think what you're looking at is the nuance that they're going to place artwork on a specified area that's already been identified for artwork, not dealing with overall construction and or improvement of a park in general.
But see, that's not necessarily the case, because that's what I'm asking. I know that they haven't done work on things that were already just ready to go. Nothing is just ready to go when you do artwork, nothing. So that's what I'm talking about.
I have a question about in the bylaws. It says the definition of civic art. Civic art is the sum of a city's architecture, public spaces, monuments, urban design, and landscape. Civic art is placemaking into art that creates timeless civic values and help define cultures. Would the skate park fall under that, or?
That would be difficult to say right now. I mean, I think we're getting off topic. At the end of the day, the discussion has to, by the agenda and under the Brown Act, it does just have to be confined to the Tony Hawk's grant. And discussion about application for applying for the grant, anything that's relevant to the application for the grant, and discussing improvements to the park are outside of the discussion for applying for the grant. If you do want to place something on the agenda for the next meeting to discuss, potential improvements and sites for artwork, or, something relevant to that, again, that's something that you can do. I'm just saying that we would need to do additional research to really and review the bylaws to be able to determine exactly the bounds of that discussion.
Wouldn't discussing the skate park kind of fall under that though, because we don't know if it's worth it to apply for the grant, because we don't know if it will help us with these sorts of repairs, like if it's worth it for that grant to be applied for, because it discusses trying to like revitalize a town's like skate park and
A cultural space.
it's a
essentially.
cultural space.
Mm.
And in the bylaws, it also mentions the architecture of an area and a landscape, which I feel like
Mm.
this kind of falls under.
So then you can have that discussion as long as it's relevant and related to the Tony Hawk's grant.
I feel like that's
I
kind
felt
of the
like it
lines
is,
we were
yeah.
on, because we were trying to discuss whether it was worth it to do that or to look at other options, which I feel like should fall underneath it. Is
Well,
it worth it to apply or not?
Where we started going out was looking at the other options and potentially asking different people and organizations that's not specifically related to the application for the Tony Hawk's grant. So you could discuss items that would impact the application for Tony Hawk's grant.
How do you explore and how do you think critically about what you need to do if you can't discuss other options? If it meaning, so it doesn't work because it means we now have to work with another commission.
But I'm not saying that you can't discuss more broadly. I'm saying that your discussion for this evening needs to be confined to what is listed in the agenda.
Right. And so we're coming to the conclusion then that more than likely the Tony Hawk grant is not going to be an option, and that we'd like to discuss now what we need to do next in order to move this forward. How do we? Well, no, I mean, at this point, in other words, we've already come to the conclusion, right, that this grant is going to be very complicated. So now what I think you're saying is that we now say we're going to discuss the sort of umbrella of the skate park, which I believe we can now discuss in August, right? And then talk about those other options then. Okay.
So can the Tony Hawk grant,
Under the
for-
general conversation.
under the general conversation, but then can we also add how we would like to make improvements and the art placemaking and move that forward. Do we vote on that, or do we just discuss that that's what we would like?
So you could make a motion to move this, to continue this item to the next meeting. And to include a discussion of alternatives, basically alternatives.
Okay. So I would like to carry a motion to discuss the Tony Hawk grant at our August meeting, which to include alternatives for updating and trying to upgrade that park, and also, I guess, art placement,
Place
we-
making.
because we kind of have to have the park kind of redone in order to put art out
Mhm,
there.
mhm.
So, can I get a,
I make a second.
okay.
Can I get an amen?
All in favor?
Can
Oh.
I just need clarification on what the motion was.
To discuss the Tony Hawk grant, but to also discuss how ways that we can try to either collaborate with other commissions or talk with council to try to get funding, to try to clean it up and
Yeah, we want to
some
talk about
improvement.
alternative options and also just to discuss what it takes. Yeah, what collaborations look like among commissions or departments or councils.
so I don't know if that's a couple of agenda items under that or.
I mean, they're all discussions that would be taking place underneath the umbrella of the skate park.
But it may
But
sound.
but we had a motion at the dais, so we have to move forward with that motion. And then I had others interrupt. So what I have as Commissioner Rojas, for clarification, is motion to discuss the Tony Hawk grant to include discussing ways to collaborate with other commissions along with other fundings. And then it
No,
just
that's
got,
simultaneous.
others started talking. So I don't know what the motion is. I just need clarification on Vice Chair Rojas's motion.
For collaboration on improving the skate park. Are those also different agenda items under that, or is that all one agenda item? Because it kind of sounds like a couple.
Can someone else make a motion?
So
We feel the same way.
I would say, you're making a motion to continue this discussion until the next meeting to include an expanded discussion regarding alternatives.
Okay.
Related to culture and artwork within the skate park.
Okay.
Can I also
Potentially.
please add to that? I agree with what you're saying. And I think what I also am concerned about is that we just don't talk about specific things underneath that skate park. In other words, I don't want to clarify that all we're doing is talking about funding, or all we're talking about is collaboration. We're talking about all these things. That's what we want to talk about, everything. So it should be, at least in my opinion, that we're talking about the skate park.
And I
And
think,
then everything that falls underneath that.
and I think that's kind of the wording that we're using, right? Alternatives could mean funding or improvements. Does that all fall under the word alternative?
Well,
It could, but you need to, if you're going to modify your motion, you would need to withdraw and then put forth a new motion. And then that motion would have to be seconded and then voted on.
Okay. So before I make a motion though, can we discuss exactly what we're trying to?
So you need to withdraw your motion.
Okay. Can I withdraw that motion, please? And it kind of sounds like we want to discuss improvements, right? For the park itself. And in order to do that, we need to collaborate with other commissions or the council.
And improvements could also include, which is our part, right? The arts and culture part of it, but it also means that we are also needing to collaborate with others in order to make our part happen.
So maybe include like expanding the conversation into a more broader umbrella sense. So it's easier to talk about more of these topics at once and kind of branch out to the opportunities and alternatives.
Yeah. So we need a sentence that encompasses that meaning or that intention. Is that what you want from?
In a motion, yes.
So
All right, well, I'm gonna need some help here. I'm trying to think of that sentence because
Okay, so making a motion to move the Tony Hawk grant to the next meeting under the umbrella of providing arts and culture within the skate park and what's necessary to make that possible.
okay. So I'd like to carry a motion to discuss the Tony Hawk grant.
moving it underneath. it.
Moving it under an umbrella of discussing the arts and culture of the park and what we need to do to get there. Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
Can I get all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay, all in favor of moving the Tony Hawk discussion to August
Under the umbrella.
under the umbrella under the umbrella discussion of the arts and culture of the park and what we need to do to get there.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Very technical stuff. It's good. It's good to know this stuff. It's just, it's very technical. It sometimes goes over my head. All right. Can we discuss new business too? Discuss forming a roundtable for artists.
Commissioner Sanchez, it was a couple meetings ago when you were here.
Yeah.
We, I believe this is the one that happens in Gilroy. Is that correct?
Well, it's one that we're working with in collaboration, yes, with several artists in Gilroy, but that we would like to do something similar here in Hollister.
Okay, and do you mind explaining to the commissioners again, at that time, Commissioner Rojas was not here he wasn't here when we talked about the Day of the Dead or this event, so
Okay.
is it possible you could kind of tell him what we were thinking?
Yeah, so Gilroy's art ecosystem and infrastructure for really historically has not been built out, basically hasn't been in place. And so I'm on a couple committees through an organization called SV Creates that's helping places like Gilroy, well, in Gilroy in particular, but Watsonville's doing it, a lot of the sort of overlooked communities, right, that don't historically get funding for arts as much as say the bigger counties or cities do, are starting to receive that kind of attention. And so in order to do that, though, we needed to bring together all the local artists to see what the needs of the local art community is, right? In order to start, say, handing out grants and things like that for particular projects and so forth. And so these art roundtables take place monthly. And so in those monthly meetings, artists can come together and voice their needs for their local community. And then that voice, that collective voice is then brought forth to the different commissions that can actually move the arts sector forward and empower it.
So, all a roundtable of artists would have their own meeting, and then they would come to us on this meeting and then discuss kind of all that they've talked about. And
Yeah, exactly. So for instance, we're currently going, for instance, some of us on this, panel are artists, maybe a couple of us aren't, I don't know. But it would give us access to the greater voice of the arts community in Hollister, which is not totally and completely identified, right? And it would give them a space to come together and just collectively work to move the arts ecosystem into a more empowered place.
do you have an idea of how they got that started?
Yeah, so this organization called SV Creates, just literally we started with a couple of people that they invited to be in the Arts Roundtable, and a little at a time, we started with about 3 people, and now we're about to, 20, 30 people that collectively show up every month, mostly all artists. Mhm.
Do you think they would be interested in attending a meeting to try to help us in a way?
Gilroy?
Yeah. Or how do you think we could get that started for here in Hollister?
So I believe that the Arts Commission could actually help out with that. In other words, communication that we put out into the arts communities. Of course, Commissioner Ross, has access to, plenty of artists, students, and also is active in the artist community equally. I am the executive director of an arts organization as well. So, I think collectively we can come up with a few artists that we can bring to the table and guide
Mhm.
the local arts community. And eventually it sort of takes this organic feel but of course, once you start seeing that things start to progress and move collectively, and of course we'd see more people here,
Mhm.
right? Which I think that's a big wish of mine, is that we see more voices out in these seats that have, an input on what we want to see in our city for arts and culture.
So what would the role be that we would play as a commission?
So the roundtables are really more of a like kind of roots movement or grassroots gathering, right? To make it more of a comfortable space. And it would be them who come to the commission for guidance or to just voice what they would like. I think that right now it's up to us to sort of identify what we think is important. But if we get the broader community involved, we will be, a lot more effective at being a commission.
So it doesn't sound like it's something that we want to appoint anybody. It's kind of, we want them to form this roundtable outside from us, but then come to us for like a communication or.
Well, they would probably, in many cases, want to do projects, right? And for that, to work collaboratively with local government is in their best interest.
Yeah, I could see, a group coming to us to then discuss what they would like to see. Then we discuss it and then take it to council and.
Exactly.
But where would we start? Could we create an ad hoc to have, the artists that are in this commission go out and find 3 or 4 people to get this going? Is there already a roundtable out there that's kind of already in the works that maybe could?
No,
not at all.
that's why we're bringing it forth. Yeah. Mhm.
Well, what do you guys think? How could we get something like that started? Because there are artists in town. It's just I don't think there's anything that organized to.
Yeah, we would just need to identify a space, right?
Yeah, I think if we all could find at least one artist and like try to invite them and see if we can like get them together, or did you say like have them form outside of us, or are we playing a role in like enlisting them?
Yeah, for instance, like we could even collectively work together to sort of bring a seed, let's say, a group to encourage them, right, to get together
Yeah.
and start, having conversations about what, the arts look like in Hollister, right, as a collective. And yes, and guide them if needed, when needed.
Yeah.
But so we have, it could be at the San Benito Arts Council. We have Audacity that's on 6th Street. I mean, any one of those places they could meet, on a monthly basis and give them like a sort of a time you want to show up and meet and, meet other artists. It's almost also like artists are not really connecting.
What's the size of this roundtable that we're looking for?
It can be as big as it needs to be. It's to invite all, to include all artists that want to come together just for, to like create a community, right?
Yeah. So
Mhm.
then I think we could all like find at least one person that we know is passionate about art and like we know works well with others, and see if we can get them together and have them like, once we get that ball rolling, and if they're interested in it, they can then work together in spreading the word, and
Mhm.
I think maybe another like building off of that is we kind of have to build it first ourselves and start a core,
Mhm.
Um,
Exactly.
because right now we're the only ones that know about it.
Yeah.
So setting a place and inviting the public out, whether it's with posters or telling people around us or talking to businesses, saying, hey, we have this meeting that we want all artists to come to and start talking about artwork in the city. And I think once we kind of get that established,
Mhm.
we can start pushing them off onto their own.
Mhm.
But first we have
Mhm.
to get that core started.
That's right. Yeah.
did someone say the little area with the San Diego Arts Council? I forgot the building, but it's in the same building as that one restaurant. I've seen the space because we held Poetry Out Loud there a couple months ago, and that could be a really good space. Just have a table in there, me in there. It's
Mhm.
relatively secluded and quiet. There's an office above, but that's just the actual Arts Council where they're working. And there's like an art gallery-ish space right there. I think that'd be a nice place to meet.
Mhm. And there's also Audacity on 6th Street. We can do it there.
Do you
Mhm.
think any of the members of the Gilroy Roundtable would be happy to come to one of our meetings to kind of discuss how they got, tips
Part of the
or-
round table. That's why I'm bringing it up. Yeah. That would be me.
So I guess what I'm asking is how we want to go about starting this, because it sounds like everyone has really good ideas, but it sounds like it needs kind of like a push to either recruit people for this roundtable or to build up public interest. I mean, I don't know if anyone has the time to create these posters of, hey, come meet here if you're interested in, discussing about the art in town, or how exactly, because it seems like these kinds of projects, we don't have a whole lot of resources to help us get off the ground.
So a couple questions. Would this need to be an ad hoc? Because I'm presuming it couldn't be all of us getting together as the commission. We would have to have an ad hoc for it. And then if somebody wants to join as a member of the public, they could. And then if so, then maybe we could propose to create an ad hoc for it. And Commissioner Stopper, you were talking about setting a place, and then there's a few of you who are talking about locations. It could be a different location each time. You could work with the HDA. Maybe the meetings are held at different businesses. There's some sort of collaboration there. there could be a lot of advertising that way.
We rotate where we meet every month.
Right,
Mhm.
and then this could bring the businesses together also, maybe local businesses also put in a little blurb or something on like a small pamphlet or something that goes with the receipts at a store where you buy something at Bene, or if you go eat somewhere, then they have it in the billfold. That's, this is an upcoming meeting. And that could then start snowballing into different events and things like that, where now we're advertising with those businesses and building the art community that way.
So, what the vision is and what's been done, for instance, in Gilroy, is that each of these we do meet at different venues each time. And each one of those venues, though, throws the information out into their own mailing lists, right? So for instance, in your case, Commissioner Rojas, you would, anybody right? You would say, hey, if you're an artist and you're interested in connecting with other artists, this month is going to be this meeting place, right? Or your students, right? Commissioner Ross, notifying your students that if they want to connect with the larger community, that's how, and we would equally say do the same with our students. Also, for instance, the flag that we did, right? The Parks and Recs put out a
150th.
yeah.
Community
So the
flag.
calling for artists, right, to the community, maybe it's a similar thing where we could partner and equally have a message go out inviting any artists that are interested in attending these roundtables. So it'd be a collective like call out, and then have, select maybe the first few spots, for the first like couple months, 2-3 months, and just keep inviting, and eventually it picks up.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea I was going for.
Yeah.
Sounds like a wonderful idea, and it sounds like it could really happen because I actually think I know about that. I don't know too much about it, but I think I know about that roundtable. I've been
Mhm.
seeing things here and there on social media, and
Mhm.
so my only thing is how do we organize it in a way where we don't violate the Brown Act when we're trying to, when we are having these meetings and inviting people to our spaces outside of this meeting.
I'm assuming the commissioners just can't,
Can't
can only be like 2 of us at a time. Is that right? 3?
So the issue can also arise where it's like, you look at it, it can either be a daisy chain or a hub and spoke concept. So like if one of you were to speak to 2 other members about the same thing, then that would be a violation of the Brown Act.
So
Because
more,
we'd be
not more
discussing
than
it.
2 then, right?
So and again, what were you trying to determine as far as meetings?
Well, it kind of sounded like we would alternate spaces of where people met with a couple of the commissioners who have folks in the art sector that they can kind of recruit or kind of, but I think I kind of get what you're saying. Like if us 2 were to talk about something and then she talked with her and then she talked with them, it's kind of, we're kind of in a way.
That's what I'm trying to get, that we should just have whatever that number is, even if it means just 1 commissioner, then it's just 1 commissioner. Like, I don't want us to get stuck on that. Like, we know what it means to violate. So if it just means 1 commissioner, then 1 commissioner it is.
Do you know what we're trying to do?
So you're trying to have a commissioner involved with the roundtable or a meeting?
Just to help seed it so that they can continue on their own.
Just to get it started.
Mhm.
So.
To lead conversations, to help facilitate.
And that's something that you could also, I guess, ask staff to be involved in trying to facilitate that if possible. But
How?
so what you're proposing is that one commissioner would establish or be at these meetings and only one commissioner?
It could be, or it could be two. I mean, it doesn't matter how many, whatever doesn't violate the Brown Act.
So it would be any of the any discussions that would properly come before the commission. If you were to start to have these discussions and kind of see, well, how do you feel about, this, and then how do you feel about that? And you're starting to get basically a sense of how the other commissioners feel, and it's not here in a public meeting where the public can attend, and that would be considered a Brown Act violation because it's a serial meeting.
Yeah, it's not anything about that. It's about just getting the artist community together so they can have a place to discuss their own artistic projects and ventures. That's it. Or even just connecting. And in the end, this is obviously something that people can do on their own, right?
Right.
I mean, the important thing is to not turn this into something that again stops us from making progress. So the question is, it's almost like a club, a meetup. That's it. And all we would do is help them, just guide them into strengthening their own community. That's it. I mean, that's why we're here, right? I don't even know why this commission is created if it can't lead.
I guess if there was anybody in particular who had interest, that you would take the reins for this to seed it. Once they get the idea that we are this commission, then they could start coming.
They
and then-
basically need someone to help them, someone who knows what they're doing, right?
Mhm.
So whether it's me or any one of anybody could do this. I mean, again, this could be something that just takes place with any citizen on the street. We just brought this forth in order to be helpful to the artist community. That's it.
For any reason, should this roundtable of artists start to die off a little bit or not, or just kind of lose momentum, would it be our responsibility to step back in and kind of revamp it if that should happen? Or
Look, as a private citizen, for instance, in my case, right? Like I do that, like I am a part of that roundtable, right? And we keep it going, right? So I'm not saying it's our responsibility. It's simply a way that we lead as a commission to help create a more robust arts and culture infrastructure, because we don't really have one, which is the reason why we're sitting here,
Yeah.
right?
I guess we're just wondering how we get that started. How.
In the ways we just talked about. Select a place, everybody invite, people show up, meet each other.
And so could we do that right now? Could we, if there's people who are volunteering and people who have spaces in mind, can we get that started? Because it sounds like it's something that we want to do, but I don't think too many of us can have our hands in the same pot, outside of this meeting. So, if you, it kind of sounds like you already kind of know, right? Like you're a part of one
I've been
already.
doing it,
You've
yeah,
been doing
for
it.
years, yeah.
And so can't we just get it started? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't does it.
Yeah. I think we spend too much time thinking why we can't do things.
Right.
And that's the thing that I'm having a really hard time with. I understand that we need to stay within guidelines and rules. We know what they are. Let's just move forward though. Let's do something. Because this is in the end all good, right? It's all good for the people. It's all good for the artists. So, as long as we're not violating any rules, that's what the commission is for, right? Otherwise, why would this commission be created?
Right. Let's see. So I guess I'm kind of lost at where we want to go from here. Where
Do we make a motion to, is that how that works?
So are you going to advise the city council to create a roundtable for artists?
City council, why would they be involved?
I think no, because I don't think we want to have the council create it or appoint anybody. I think we want like an outside group of people to create their own roundtable. That way they can come to our meetings and discuss ideas, and that way we could be that liaison to the council. I'm just not understanding how we could get those people, I mean, pick a time, a place, and a person who wants to host it and get it started.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't volunteer for something like that. But if there are people in this commission who
Yeah,
can,
absolutely.
then please, let's get it started. That way,
Yeah, the idea is that they take their own. That's their own thing. It's leading the conversation. It's just, hey, do you have any questions? How do you do this? Right? It's something that's never been done in Hollister. And I think that there's a lot of confusion around that right now. It's just never been done. We don't have an arts and culture infrastructure. This is the first part of that. Right? There's siloed a couple of organizations, but there's not a cohesive arts community like there are in other cities.
I guess, again, I'm just struggling, the difficulty being exactly whether you're attempting to designate a location to be able to.
We can host it. Anybody can host it. Anybody can host it.
But again.
It could be at a restaurant.
In your role as a commission, though, you have to, the decisions, or I guess the motions that you're making have to be within the scope of what you're authorized to be able to do. And so it would be advising or encouraging programs. So it would be to encourage a program of, outreach to the roundtable and a recommendation that city council was
program.
to start having.
No program. It's just encouraging people to get together. That's it. As an arts community. That's it. And they do it on their own. We don't do anything but just encourage them to get together as a commission in order to create a more robust arts ecosystem where people have voices and have opinions on what goes on artistically in the town. So we can see more people here having opinions.
So does the Gilroy Arts and Culture Commission or something similar, did they start the roundtable?
Yeah, it was just them. It was not started by any commission. I brought it forth because that's what I'm doing, and it was very helpful. But I kind of feel like it's not. I'm feeling like it's just not, because we're trying to bring council into something that's not anything to do with council.
No, I think
It's upon the artistic community.
right. But I think there's only so much that we as a commission can do. Well, of course, we can encourage people on our, outside time to say, hey, but what do we do? What do we?
We just
do?
discussed what we would do.
But
And that is just invite people that we know
Mhm.
and encourage them to come together.
And so nothing really needs to be voted on or anything. We're just discussing that this is something that.
Well, I mean, I think at this point, if we're inviting people to come together, there could be, I'm hearing a lot of questions. And in the end, if that's what it's going to be about, then absolutely, then I guess it doesn't happen at the commission level.
That was going to be my question. That's kind of what I'm weighing here is this something that should be under the Arts and Cultural Commission banner? Because we are bound by certain restrictions. And do we brand it as something that's started by? And what does that entail if we want to put our name be the brand ambassador basically of starting this.
Like, I think if there was already a round table in Hollister, then we could discuss like, hey, we know that there's an outside round table that would like to come to our meetings and discuss, but it doesn't sound like it's something that we want to create. So how do we find these people and how do we get them to know that we're here and we come here?
So there you go. If there's all this red tape that we cannot even help people come together to do something good for their community through arts and culture, then why are we here? That's my question.
So, okay, I think we're all in agreement. It's a wonderful idea. I think we're all just, because this is a government commission, we're trying to figure that out. So I would say that if we are wanting to really like show the community that we are here to hear them, we should have an invitation for the next meeting to discuss this with the community. And maybe that be our first, as in a sense, meeting. But from there, we just established like, okay, here you now meet, essentially, like now meet each other. And then from here forward, somebody from the public will then take the lead on it.
Like
I-
give them the idea and then
Right.
have them work off of it. I think that's kind of where we were going. It's just, how do we get?
So the
how we were
round,
getting to that
the
point.
round table that I'm in was just meant to, we got arts leaders that knew how to do this, led the group, and then we disband, because I don't live in Gilroy. I was just asked to be a part of it because this is what I know how to do, right? So eventually, we're just going to release.
But
But they will be on their own. Now they have an arts infrastructure that they know what to do with.
so those art leaders, did they come as arts and culture commissioners, or did they just happen to be leaders from different facets of the?
So I was one
community?
of those, and they invited me, and I'm the ED of an organization.
So everyone's from a different facet. It's not necessarily the commission had organized this. It was just,
No, because Gilroy
Individual.
had no commission. They just created theirs too.
okay. All right. So I think there's two ways we could go about it. Could be that maybe at the next meeting, we have some invitations that are given out to people specifically saying, we will be talking about this. Maybe it's agenda item 1 of new business. That way it's earlier in the meeting, and then talk about what we'd really like to see and encourage everybody to be a part of a community together so they could come to us.
Mhm.
Or the other option is taking this offline, and then we're all just public, we're members of the public. And so then we're all just kind of being a part of it that way. But either way, it's all going to be the public that's going to be doing this. It's not the commission that is
Governing it.
overseeing this. Yeah,
No.
okay.
Could we have like an open invite to the next meeting for the public who,
We do that every month, don't we? Or every time we
Right.
meet?
but have more of like a meaning behind it? Hey, we want to get artists together, nothing official for us, but to meet and to
Just give it a little extra push or something.
I mean, is that something we're allowed to do though? I just think that this is probably going to be something that's going to be more, I think it's going to be more complicated if it comes from us. Like I want it, but I just feel like there's too many, like interpretations and concerns for,
No, I think we're
Mhm.
just working through the weeds right now.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to eventually come from us. Like the end goal isn't for it to be that we're controlling this round
yeah,
table.
no.
It's just that we're letting the community know, hey, we really would like to see more of you out here. So this is our first meeting that that we're really gonna kind of push. And so I guess maybe the question is it possible for us to not just post the agenda, but also maybe a month ahead of time, or however, like once a week, start posting something saying this specific meeting, we're gonna be talking about this and we'd really like to bring the community together for this. Is that something we could do? Kind of advertise that meeting?
Like, could
Is that possible?
we advertise the round table without saying that we are creating the round table? Like, if we kept this on the agenda for months to come and we focused on trying to get artists to come and meet each other to possibly create their own round table without all of our red tape and without all of us trying to
Mhm,
be in charge of it.
mhm.
Like, are we able to encourage the public to create like their own little, you know what I mean? Like, come, to our meeting, we're gonna discuss, a possible art roundtable that you could be a part of, but we're not the ones that are, you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
don't know.
I like that idea because if the whole point is that we're encouraging this roundtable of artists, we might as well do it in person and have that, like, that first gathering to be able to just like have that like personal eye contact and just be able to talk to them one-on-one and rip off ideas, but still be able to like let them know that this is their thing and just be able to take that step back. Also, it feels more official if it's opposed to just like sending like emails or like Facebook posts that it's like this one spot in town. If it feels like if the first one is here, it feels like this is a real thing that they're trying to push that we can be a part of, you know?
So you could potentially have staff reach out to groups to notify them of a meeting that you were going to be holding to discuss the creation of a roundtable. And then you can listen to comment and have discussion. And then you can decide how to advise the city council on, potential creation of a actual, artist roundtable. Because that is the goal of this council, is to advise the city council, right? Regarding matters that affect culture of the city. Right. And so that essentially at the end of the day would be your advice would be to council at that point, based on the discussion that you have regarding the need within the community potentially for such a roundtable.
I think we were also looking at it as the round table. We're just letting them know. It doesn't even need to be called a round table, just like your artist community come together on your own. And then we are here to hear you, and then we'll be your liaison to the city council. And that way it doesn't need to be something that's approved by the city
Yeah.
council to build a roundtable.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out why we would bring making this public group that we wouldn't necessarily be involved in directly to city council, because I feel like we're just trying to encourage the public to like do something on their own.
Yeah, to get involved.
It's
in
like,
their-
it's just a responsibility type
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
So then you could do that, and you can encourage them and let them know that you're here as a liaison. But saying that you can advise council, that doesn't mean you have to advise council on something. It just means that if you see a need to advise council where you can say that there, potential avenues, or that they can explore ways in which to help the roundtable, then that could be something that this commission could then advise the council on.
So for instance, let's say that we get a group of 10, 15 people that are now on their own meeting regularly, and they say, hey, we would love to pitch to the commission that we would like this public artwork somewhere, right? And so we're having this meeting, they come to the podium and say, hey, we want to do this project, right? Then we then could say, this then creates a need for a resolution, right? And then that's what we take to city council. Is that how that works?
So essentially you would make a motion, recognizing that this is an item. And then again, you would forward your advice to city council, who would then take up the matter.
Like, I'll give you an example. One of the things that we just got passed was 50, well, and this makes sense, 50K that would be matched by city council in Gilroy to the arts community in grant money for specific projects that would be done around the city. So like a chalk walk festival, or like a, whatever whatever artistic and culture project that could be done. So it would be something similar to that, where the roundtable would bring to the commission, and the commission would then take to city council. Mhm. So that's the scenario that you're talking about. Yeah, okay.
So is there really anything that we need to do right now, though? Is there really, I mean, we discussed it. Is there anything that we have to immediately vote or talk about to get this going? Should we ask staff to kind of put a word out there to have local artists come to this next meeting to hear us talk about this open-ended roundtable? Or I'm just trying to see what we need to do next.
So in
It
other
sounds like
words-
we all know what we want from this, and it kind of sounds like we're all on the same page, but what do we do now?
So for instance, in August, what would be the agenda item?
Right.
I think maybe we need to make a motion of whether to put this on the agenda or not, and invite the community for this.
Mhm. Is that the correct thing to do? Okay,
And then we could ask staff to kind of
help us advertise.
help us out with, hey, if you're a local artist, we have, because that is also one thing that and I know we're all so busy and we're all doing 10 things at once with the very little people we have, but I haven't really seen a whole lot of people know that we exist, and that has been a problem for a long time.
Mhm.
And if people don't know that we exist, then how do they know to come to us to talk about things that they want to see that we can then take to city council? And so I'm just I guess I do think we should bring this back again to the August meeting, but I also would like to have city staff kind of put the word out there to kind of see if any artist, local artists would want to come and kind of just, because I mean, the first one could be the person who gets the roundtable started, I mean, it just takes
Mhm.
one or a couple people. So I would like to carry a motion to shelve this for the next meeting month in August, with ways to
So what's the motion then?
trying to think of what I'm trying to say. I want to bring this back, but I also want to invite the community to see where we could go from here. And I don't know exactly how I would need to word that, just like that, or.
I think I'm also hearing that you don't necessarily think that maybe there's a motion, that maybe we're just saying we want help from other departments to help us put the word out to come to this next.
Right, but I think we need to carry a motion to bring it on to the agenda next meeting, right?
So potentially bringing a motion to continue discussing this item at the next meeting with direction to staff to perform community outreach related to the topic.
You always know the right thing to say.
Yeah, and if we're gonna have a portion of the meeting in August dedicated to at least informing whoever ends up showing up, I think that should be on the agenda, or at least have its own little segment.
Man, I wish I had that good of a memory. Okay, I would like to carry a motion to bring this item back, the roundtable for artists, to bring it back to the next meeting in August, with help and direction from city staff for community outreach. Yeah, okay, can I get a second?
Can you repeat it one more time, please?
Oh, it's lingo.
I
Okay.
just want, because I know that when Tina's writing it down and she repeats it to us, somehow it doesn't sound like what we said.
I would like to bring this agenda item back to the August meeting, the roundtable for artists. With including direction from city staff for community outreach, so that they can let the public know that we want to talk about something like this. And it's really wordy, but do we all kind of understand the motion? Yeah. Okay. Can I get a second on that motion?
Well, can I ask what
Sure.
Tina heard, please?
What I have is a motion to bring the item to the next August 2023 meeting with help receiving direction from staff to perform community outreach.
On the artist roundtable. Project? Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah. Did you guys want to
Okay.
call it something? Should we call it something?
Artist roundtable
Arts
project?
Roundtable
Yeah.
Project,
Yeah, there you go.
okay. Right,
But for our
for-
intent, how do we
for us.
refer to it?
Yeah. It's kind of weird to talk about something that we don't want to, like, we want the community to do on their own. But us not really take the lead for it. I guess that's what's so confusing about it is, trying to encourage the community to create their own kind of artist community. And that we are always here to listen and,
That's right.
take anything into consideration. So, all right, can I get a second for that motion?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? All right, all in favor to bring the roundtable discussion back to the August meeting with direction from city staff for public outreach for
Yay.
the roundtable project. All right, commissioner comments. Is this where we can talk about other things that we would like to see on agenda or, okay, yes. Any commissioner comments?
Tomorrow's the farmer's market. My brother and his music group, formerly known as Berta, they now go by Black Bonsai. They're going to be performing in front of Vets Hall tomorrow at the farmer's market. It's from 4:30 to 5, and it's their first, as far as I know, their first like official show in Hollister since last August. They were going to have something inside Vets Hall in January, but he said something might have happened to that. I don't know if that's still happening, but tomorrow is definitely still happening. So if you're able to come, or you know anyone who's interested in that and rap and hip hop, this is gonna be like really, they put on a good show. They've been rehearsing for a while now, and it's gonna be fun.
Sweet. Thank you. What's the name of the band again?
The group is called Black Bonsai. Very, very official.
Sweet.
This will be my last meeting I am gonna have to resign. I have a letter already. Whoever I give that to, I forget. But I will be going off to school in early September, and I'll be gone traveling hopefully July, August. I applied for a study abroad program in Italy. So we're number one on the wait list. See where it goes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes, so
Well, you should be very happy and proud that you are one of the first youth commissioners for
Mhm.
our very new commission still. So, just remember us when you're in Italy, looking at all that beautiful art. The city did put on a very nice LGBTQ plus flag raising ceremony June 1st. Was attended by a small crowd, but still a strong crowd and very proud crowd nonetheless. And there is a pride party happening June 25th. Please someone remind me of the hours for that.
The hours will be from 10 to 1:30. So the first 50 people in attendance will get a official Pride swag bag.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you.
Okay, so I would like to bring to the next meeting's agenda a couple of things. So I was recently in Salt Lake City for a conference, and I was informed that that there's another city that actually has a cost requirement for any new buildings that goes towards the facade of a building. So like 30% of the cost of the building goes towards the facade. And I think that is a wonderful culture item for us to make sure that we have some very interesting buildings that are built. So I'd like to bring that to our next meeting to vote on that.
Could Commissioner Ross carry her own motion to see that on the agenda?
So do I make a motion and then we vote and everything for that?
Or do we talk about
Yeah.
it and then?
Consensus, meaning there's a vote though. Do we have to all say? Yeah, okay. So
Okay.
you put a motion forth then?
All right, so I make a motion to add to next meeting's agenda a building facade cost requirement.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Should you be doing this? I don't.
That's why I asked, right? You. That's why I asked. I think you could.
Okay. All right, all in favor, none opposed. Okay, so the other is, I don't know if it would necessarily be another agenda item. It's Salt Lake City has some really interesting, kind of integrated environmental, architecture. And so I have a video that I think I'll send it to you, Corey, if you don't mind, and sending it to the commission where they kind of create this environment that is part of Salt Lake environment. But it's built into these spaces and it's even along sidewalks and things, and it's beautiful. And they have music, they have little speakers in different parks and just have music, and that's part of visual communication is reaching all five senses. So having music anyhow, I don't know if that's something that maybe we would want to also include on kind of advising the city council on, that any building or maybe in parks or something that we do. I just really like that. And I thought that was something that we should we should bring into Hollister.
You have like pictures or, you said you
I
have
do,
video.
yeah, I have
like,
videos.
just so
I can
I
send them to Corey and then she can send them out.
I mean, I don't think, anything to, bring the art into the city, but I would have to kind of look at what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Kinda get
so
like a,
I'll send them to Corey and then Corey, if you could send them out, please. So there's trees, there's dry creek riverbeds, but they're just trees where it's not hot. It's so hot here in the summer. And so, and then they have boulders and they had this nice waterfall that went through this outdoor mall and it just looked like the mall was actually built into the landscape instead of on top of. So, I think we could do something like that here.
like that idea.
I think that brings to mind an interesting question when we're trying to define, like art seems to be, for instance, clear, right? People think it's some sort of discipline. But when we talk about culture, right? Culture can even include religion, right? Culture can include a lot of things. And I think that what you're talking about, for instance, people would go, oh, that's not art, right? That's more architectural. But indeed, it is also an art. Architecture is cultural, right? So I think there needs to, and I don't know how we would do this. How do we define what culture encompasses that we can all agree so that when we're all talking about this, that there's no question as to who defines it and that we run into this thing of debate when we think we have a clear understanding of what culture means, but yet somehow it's not always the case, right? So how do we define that? And is that something that I can move to also put on the agenda?
So that's currently what's being undertaken with the bylaws. In fact, I believe, drafts that are circulating, there is a definition that is being formulated for that.
And the definition was formulated by us? Because I know there was already something that was already there because we got it from, was it Gilroy's bylaws or some other city's bylaws that we started with?
There was a public art policy that was voted on by this commission. And with the item being brought with the, what is it called? I'm sorry, you guys. With the art development fee being brought to the council on June 20th. It was a request of the attorney to define some of these culture, what that meant, art, what does that mean? And that was a part of, I think the commission reviewed it February, March. And so with that, it was on the request of the city attorney to separate it. So the bylaws will be separate from the art policy. Once we get this art development fee start passed, if it's approved, I know you weren't here in the beginning, but if it's approved, we have to take it to a second reading. And then after that, this art development fee is implemented within 30 days after the August meeting. So we'll bring an art policy back to the commission, to the council that was approved by the commission already.
Right. And I think my question though is more in relation because having discussions, I apologize, I don't know your name. With Robert and hearing what his take on what culture means and what we're sort of saying, this is what culture means to us. We don't, right? We're not necessarily on the same page of what culture means. Like I keep hearing art, but it's the word culture, right?
And that
And how
definition is in
it's
it.
defined, right?
Yeah, so I have the agenda item slated for August 7th,
Okay.
but I can pull it and maybe have it in September so that the commission can review it again
Yeah. Yeah.
and define that. But once staff sends it, it's important that we get the commission's feedback.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we don't get it until here, and then that kind of delays
Yeah.
a lot of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So I will have to pull it and probably not unschedule it for September. But
And
that's just,
we can't have it August because it's still, you need more time, I guess.
no, it's scheduled to go in August 7th.
Oh, and then.
But you
it
were
could be
asking
ready
to
September.
From my understood that you wanted to see what the definition is of culture,
Culture in particular.
because that we may not all agree on it.
Yeah.
So we do not meet in July, and
Mhm.
the council commission goes dark.
Yeah.
So our next meeting will not be until after the city council meeting.
Which is why you're saying September. Okay, got it. All right.
So I can bring it to the August 8th meeting. I think that's when we meet again. I can bring it to that meeting for review.
Do you all agree that this would be a good idea to do? I mean, I personally feel like we do because it's difficult, at least in my case, to articulate certain things if we're not in a clear understanding of the definition.
Well, I have a question. So Tina, are you talking about the art development fee or the bylaws?
I'm talking about the art policy. That
And that's
was,
part of the
that was
bylaws.
part of the bylaws, and it was, so she has, they asked us to separate it.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm okay. I mean, so presently we go with everything that's already been written, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
At the time when the policy was created and we voted that we wanted to approve that, at that time, I had voted that, yes, I thought that's what the definition meant to me, and I did vote on it. These things are coming up, or it does make me kind of, but reading them, I honestly still feel that my answer would still be yes without much change. But that is just my opinion. So I guess I want to hear the other commissioners. I mean, we don't always have to all be in agreement. If there are other commissioners that want to pull it to take a second look at the definition, then that's what we'll do if that's what's voted on.
Yeah, I think looking at it again could help, especially since it seems like despite how long this commission has existed, there's still a lot that we need to work through and like gain a better understanding of. And while it'd be nice to just like go ahead and like get the ball moving on a lot of things, we need to understand what it is that we're doing first. So, taking a second look over, it couldn't hurt.
Yeah, my main concerns are, for instance, like we talked about the skate culture. It, for others, it's not that, but for us, it is. Architecture being a part of culture. For others, it might not be. For us, it is. So to sort of be clear on what we define as culture.
Yeah, definitions of vocabulary is very important for us to understand.
Mhm.
Yeah, we don't have a definition of culture in the art policy. Just definition of art and definition of permanent public art,
Mhm.
and definition of civic art.
Mhm.
So should we review the public art policy? Or I guess it's just the art policy is what it's being called now. And then discuss it next meeting.
Well, I think you said September, right?
So at this level, the Art and Culture Commission could discuss it at the August 8th meeting.
Mm.
And then I would take this item to council to amend the art policy
Or, so I guess
in
is it
September.
culture or are you guys calling, is it the art and culture policy or is it just being called the art policy?
At this moment, it's called the art policy.
And it's inclusive of art and culture then?
my understanding, it does include the culture unless I'm confusing it with the art development, but I will review it.
Well, then there is that question of art development fee. Is it art and culture development fee?
Mm.
At this time, it's called the art development fee.
Mhm.
That was approved by the commission.
And considering how, how we speak about things and the words that we use are so important, it concerns me that we're just saying art and not art and culture policy. Because it could then just be misconstrued that it's just art and doesn't include culture, which is two different things. I mean, they're put together, but they're different.
In the policy, it does talk about the culture. I'll highlight it when I send it to you guys.
So do we create a motion to bring back the art policy to discuss the culture aspect of it? Do we make a motion for that, or?
So are you wanting to amend the current art policy?
So yeah, again, it comes down to words, right? Art and culture policy. Do we call it the art and culture policy? Because they're two different things. Art and culture they're related, but art and culture are not necessarily the same thing. When people talk about
Right,
art,
but
they think of like
But it's
paintings.
currently called the art policy, correct? So would be bringing a motion to modify or amend the art policy, the existing art policy, to add culture.
Correct. And to define that culture so that when we're all talking about it, we're all talking about the same thing. And that if we refer to the art policy, that we now refer to it as the art and culture policy.
Then you would bring a motion to discuss that at the next meeting.
Okay,
Just so I can clarify, I know we wanted to include the culture part. The item for the art development fee is going to council June 20th. If I pull it, then it's going to take at least 2 more months. So with that being said, it will be called the art development fee.
Will it limit us if we get to a cultural aspect of what that fee is going to be and we want to use it for something that's cultural, but because it's not defined that way, we could be limited to use those funds?
In the art development fee there, it is defined.
Right, but I guess what I'm getting at is the definition of culture, for instance, there again, does it include architecture? Does it include things like, a skate culture that's outside of what people would think is art? If
It does
includes
include the
that.
architect, doesn't specifically say skate culture, but it talks about the culture.
I can read the purpose for you.
Can we do that right now?
Oh, no, I
Yeah.
don't think we can.
So I think I'm confused. We started in one place and we're in a very different place. So it was my understanding that you're wanting to amend your current art policy, not necessarily the civic art fee ordinance.
Yeah, not the fee ordinance, just to make sure, for instance, if we have something that's defined under culture, let's say.
So then you're trying to essentially.
And then we could be told, no, you can't use it for that because that doesn't really fall under this one art thing.
So for the ordinance specifically?
Correct. Like, will it limit our ability to use it towards art and cultural things as we define it? In other words,
So
let's just say if architecture were included,
it's
could we
util-
use that money for that?
it's
Yeah.
it's the definitions within the ordinance will control how the ordinance is. used.
Exactly. So that's what we're trying to ensure, which is why too, if it's just called an art policy, is it still going to be considered the art and culture policy? Or is it just an art policy?
Well, they're different things, right? So one's an ordinance that has definitions within it that control how the ordinance
Correct.
works.
Yes.
The policy is something separate that applies to the commission.
What I'm getting at though is it's being called the art policy. It's not being called the art and culture policy.
I'll let you know, though, that it does include art and cultural resources, development of artistic and cultural resources. So it does include culture, even though the name of it is an art development fee.
And do we have a definition or consensus of what culture means?
Okay, so that what I was just talking about is the ordinance. And then the art policy, it doesn't say definitively what culture is exactly. So are you wanting to have that definition in our art policy prior to this ordinance going to city council to be approved?
My concern is if we don't have culture defined, that we could easily, for instance, be told that we can't use certain monies for certain things that we define as culture in the future. Does that make sense?
I would say that that would be more effectively dealt with in the new bylaws that are being drafted, is that they should contain a definition.
In the bylaws?
Yes.
And that's what you were saying we could look at again. Is that right? And it wouldn't hold up the fee.
My understanding, Rob, is the bylaws is going to be presented by our city clerk's office so that it's consistent with all our commissions across the board. And then the art policy will be a separate policy that I bring forward. So could we define that culture, the definition of culture in the art and culture policy if we amend the current policy that we have?
I don't see any reason why you couldn't do that.
So for clarification, we would add a definition. For clarification, we just add a definition to the art and policy and amend it to say the art and culture policy. Could it be amended and modified?
Yes.
That it will go under the policy.
Okay.
I just want us to be
No,
clear on
that's
this.
perfect. Thank you.
Is that something we have to vote on? Do you want to carry that motion?
So do I do it? Okay, and so what am I saying? I'm saying we are going to a motion to amend the art policy name to include art and culture
And a definition of culture.
and the definition of culture. Amend the art policy. Okay. So, can I get another?
I get to clarify what you.
So amend the art policy to art and culture.
Okay. Anything to do with definition?
So you mean specific
Culture.
details of what culture would include?
I have a motion to amend the art policy to the art and culture. That's all I have.
Right, but did we state we don't need to redefine or define culture, or because if we do that, then it gets more complicated, correct?
So we're making a motion to put this on the next meeting. Is that what you're saying?
No, now I'm all confused.
It has to be a motion to place it on the next agenda.
Right,
As a
so
mess.
then.
To change it from art to art and culture, is that correct?
But I think you want to just keep it general and say, I move to place the amendment of the art policy to the next meeting.
The amendment of the art policy to the meeting. I move to place the amendment of the art policy to the next meeting. Which that would be in August.
Motion to place it. Oh, gosh, you guys, nice. Motion to place the amendment of the art policy to the August 2023 meeting.
Yes.
There's a motion on the floor.
Anybody want to second that motion?
Second,
Oh, I second that motion.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
aye.
All opposed? Hey. So on, four yes, how do I say that? Four yes, there, one no? Yeah, I said no.
is it 5 years?
5-1.
Five yes, do I just say the number? Five yes, one no?
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
I know.
All right.
Okay. So.
Any other commissioner comments?
Okay, so that was just the Salt Lake City outdoor, public outdoor space. Maybe that's something that I'll just send you the videos and then maybe it's something we can just talk about, like on the next one. It'd just be a conversation about it.
Everything that we have to bring to the next meeting, do we have to vote on? Or can we just can one of us just say, can we see that on the next meeting, like for her? Or we all have to vote on it?
Yes.
Would you like to see that in the next meeting?
Okay, sorry, okay. So I make a motion to add to next meeting. The discussion of the Salt Lake City outdoor spaces.
I second the motion. All in favor?
I.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries to bring the Salt Lake City outdoor spaces to the August meeting.
And then my last comment is thank you, Sarah, for your service. And I'm very excited for you and everything that you do. Keep in touch, please.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Can we set the next regular meeting date to Tuesday, August 8th, 2023 at 6 p.m.?
Do we need to vote on that?
Yeah, I think we need to adjourn meeting at 8:50.
Do it. Are we done?
Think so.
Did we stop recording? Oh.
Motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:50?
I make a motion.
All in favor?
You
Yeah.
have to second.
Yeah, this one.
Who would like to second that?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
No. No. Keep going.